Hello and welcome back to another Chateau de Bruges video. Thank you for all the questions you've been leaving in the last couple of videos. We've really enjoyed reading them and we're going to give you some answers today. Because we got so many questions from you guys, we've broken them down into sections, and then what we've also done is each person is going to answer their kind of specialised section, and they will give you all the answers to the questions in that section. Said section a lot, didn't I then? It's a lot of sections.
Well, just a minute, let's slow down a bit. It appears that the youngsters have made a right mess of this introduction, so it's up to us older generation to put things right for them. Let's start all over again, shall we? We want to know from you what you want to see next week. Now the first thing would be renovation so far, or
videos from around the local commune.
How'd you say that?
Commune.
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 Commune. Videos from around the local commune.
Okay, so the first section that we're going to start with is the personal. So these are all of the questions that you guys have asked about us and you wanted to find more about us. We're going to start with one from Josephine Wills, and they have said, what is your story? How did you come about this?
Okay, well I was inspired, like many Brits, moving to chateaus in France by Dick and Angel on the Escape to the Chateau channel. Watched that and always thought I'd love to get my hands on one of those big chateaus. Coming from a renovation background in the UK, working on 2 and 3 bedroom houses, I wanted to get my hands on something else a lot bigger and with a lot more history. Plus I love the climate of this part of France, so that was the driver for me. And then Rachel got on board and made it all happen for us.
I'm fairly similar in terms of my story. I obviously grew up watching Dick and Angel, and when Mum and Dad said that they were thinking about doing this, I just had to have a slice of the pie and had to get out here and see what it was all about as well. And again, big fan of the climate, big fan of the sun, so that was another drawing factor. And again, as a family, we'd always spoken about running our own bar, running our own restaurant, and doing something like that, and that sort of thing had always excited me. So when we had the opportunity to do something similar to that and run the hotel and the B&B and the chateau, that was something that I didn't want to pass up.
Yes, I think very similar for my story as well, in the sense of you know, these guys had this dream and this opportunity to do this, and there was no way that I was going to pass up on that. I used to work in sort of weddings and events sort of venues and things like that, and I would always love to get back into that. And this provided an opportunity, being a hotel, B&B and events retreat, that provided me with the opportunity to go back into that industry and hopefully make it our own and be really successful.
So the next question that we're going to move on to is from one of our 2 biggest fans. I'm sure you've seen them in the comments in previous videos, but this one is from Cynthia Berry, and she's asking, are you married? I'm assuming she's talking to all of us at that point, so again we'll start with Graham and then me and then Danielle.
Hi Cynthia, thank you for your support. I am married, happily married, for 25 years. And I'm married to Rachel, who you haven't seen in any videos yet. She remains very much in the background, but she's working hard to keep us all on track and manages the financial side of the business. So yes, I am married. Thank you for asking.
Okay, my turn. So I'm not married yet, but I'm not married yet, but we do speak about it regularly, and we do envisage one day the chateau being the place that we have our celebration of our marriage. By that I mean with Danielle.
Yeah, how do we know he was going to do that just then? Yeah, exactly what Jake said. We are not married yet, but hopefully one day.
When she finds the right man. So the next question, a few people have asked, so we've grouped them all together. The people that did ask were Simon Dippity, Rochelle Nowick, I hope I'm saying that right, and Chris Mont. And essentially, they've all asked who will be actually living at the chateau full time. So you may have seen lots of different people that we've got in the videos so far, but the 3 people that are actually staying here permanently are obviously Graham, Danielle and I. The other people that you would have seen, Charles, Grandad and Grandma, are just here on a short stay, and they will hopefully going to be visiting us regularly to keep helping us around the chateau. We're hoping that Rachel, my mum, Graham's wife, will be joining us within the next few years as well, to come and live at the chateau with us. And again, help us continue to renovate and eventually run the chateau as a business. So next question is from a follower called Lee, and he has said, do you plan to live in the main building or in the outbuildings?
Hi Lee, thank you for your question. I think the current plan at the moment is that we will occupy some of the unfinished rooms in the main building, with the view of there's a space above the kitchen which will eventually make a lovely sort of self-contained bedroom and living space for either myself and Rachel or Jake and Danielle. And we also have the gîte, which is under consideration to be converted, which again could be used for a family space if a young baby were to come along, or for a couple to live. So I think that's the current planning at the moment, but as with these things, everything changes as you kind of move along.
So next question, Cynthia Berry has asked again, will you get peacocks? Because every chateau needs at least one.
I'd like a peacock.
Jake's got a peacock.
Oh no, we can't keep that in the video, can we? So Cynthia, obviously peacocks are something that we've seen on other YouTube channels and in other chateaus. We haven't got any plans to have a peacock just yet. They look great.
They look great.
With having Merlin the dog around, and numerous cats that we seem to have adopted, and chickens that we're hoping to have in the near future,
and cows
in the field, not just too far away. Yeah, peacocks aren't on the priority list just yet, but who knows, it could be something in the future that we potentially look at.
The other thing, Cynthia, with regards to animals, is that within our business plan, one of the options is to rent the chateau out as an entirety, so families can rent the whole of the chateau, and that would mean that we then need someone to look after the animals as well. So yeah, it may be a bit difficult to say, yeah, you can rent the chateau, but please can you feed the chickens, look after the cockerel, blah de blah de blah. So we have to make those considerations as well.
Okay, so the last question for the personal section is from Carolyn Black, and she has said, what's been the biggest surprise, good and or bad, since purchasing your chateau?
Okay, I think for me the biggest surprise is, despite working hard to learn French for 6 months before we moved out, my French is still absolutely abysmal, and I'm still struggling to be able to hold any kind of conversation with anyone. So that's a bad surprise for me. Good surprise is just how much I'm loving doing what we're doing.
My biggest surprise, the good surprise, is that everyone in the local commune and everywhere that we've been with regards to the business side of the chateau have been lovely. They've been very patient with our very limited French, and yeah, they've just been really accepting and very, very welcoming. So we really appreciate that as a trio, being welcomed into the community as well as we have. I'd probably say my my worst surprise is again how difficult the language is to pick up, and we know lots of little words that we try and put into a sentence, and it still doesn't really get us very far.
Using a lot of actions.
A lot of actions, a lot of gestures. So yeah, the language is getting there very, very slowly, but that's probably the worst surprise as such.
Okay, I'm not going to bother repeating the negative surprise because mine is very much the same. But my good surprise is I think how well the YouTube seems to be going, and how much support that you guys as followers are giving us, and it's really nice to have such positive reinforcement coming from something that we really hadn't thought about doing before we came to the chateau. So that's my good surprise. Okay, so the next section that we're going to talk about, again, is going to be taken by all of us, but it's about our roles and responsibilities within the chateau. Now, we briefly touched on this in a previous video, which I will link below for you if you do want to take a look at that. TJ Bren has asked for a review or a summary of everyone's construction knowledge. I'll let Graham go first, because he obviously has the most construction knowledge, and then me and Danielle will dibble and dabble at the end.
Okay. Hi, Bren. Thanks for the question. I spent most of my working professional life in IT, but I've always been keen DIYer, so always renovated and improved our own houses. But for the last 3-4 years since selling my IT business, I've been full-time on renovation projects. So buying houses at auctions, turning them around and reselling them. So my experience comes very much from hands-on. I can do pretty much anything. I'm a qualified domestic installer in the UK for electrics, so I do my own electrics. I do my own plumbing. I can do plastering. I've done roofing. I've done extensions, brickwork. So there's very little that I don't have a go at. So some would say jack of all trades, master of none, but happy to have a go.
And then when it comes to, I think I can speak for both of us, and in terms of our renovation experience, we were both teachers back in the UK, so it was never a job for us to do any sort of renovation. But before coming to the chateau, we had recently moved into our first home together, and when we did move in, the home was slightly outdated. It needed a lot of refurbishment, and it also needed the electrics completely rewiring. So we spent most of our summer renovating that house, pretty much just myself and Danielle, some help with Dad. The only thing that we had done by an outside professional was the plastering of our new kitchen diner. That's the only thing in the entire house that we had done outside of us three. So in terms of renovation experience, nowhere near as much as Dad, but we'd like to think that we're relatively handy when it comes to decoration. Okay, next question then within the roles and responsibilities is from Rochelle Nowick. I think we had one from Rochelle earlier. We did. And Rochelle has said, who is the gardener of the family? So I think when we originally moved to the chateau and we kind of figured everyone roles and responsibilities out, I think I kind of took the role of the gardener on my shoulders and said, yep, leave the garden with me. I'll have no trouble doing that. That'll be fine. I'll enjoy that. Before kind of realizing how big the garden was and how much came with that responsibility. So while I would say the gardening is my baby, I think everyone has been chipping in with things around the garden. And what seems to be happening is whenever we have friends and family come to help renovate and to help restore the chateau, we do end up spending the majority of the time in the garden, doing bits that we normally wouldn't have time for doing ourselves. Okay, so the next section is specifically about the chateau. And Graham, I'm going to direct all of these questions to you. So question 1 is from one of our favourite followers, which is Cynthia Berry. Now, Cynthia asked, when did you know you wanted to move to France?
Okay, hello Cynthia, thank you for your question. I think I knew certainly as far back as 2017 when I exited the IT world, that would be how I wanted to spend the next few years of my life. It took a few years after that to actually get Rachel fully on board to the idea of relocating permanently to France. But I think as soon as we then found out that you guys would be keen to come as well, then that was the clincher. So yeah, it's been a long process. I'd say 5 years from actually thinking, oh yeah, I'd like to do that, to actually getting here.
And the second question is from Cynthia Berry and John Sinclair. And now they've both said, how many chateaus did you look at before you decided on Chateau de Bruges?
Okay, we spent about 2 years prior to COVID looking at chateaus online with all the different estate agencies. We just got to the point where we were ready to start viewing chateaus when COVID hit, so we couldn't really start to go and visit anywhere. We couldn't travel to France to come and look at places, so it became very frustrating that we were seeing places online that normally we would have gone to view and look at, but we couldn't get out there to see them. But amazingly, these chateaus were still being sold. People were still buying them either without seeing them, or people were breaking the rules and coming to see them. So some of the ones we had lined up were sold before we could even get a chance to see them. Originally, when we saw this chateau, we discounted it. Something wasn't quite right about it, and we thought, no, I think it was because it wasn't as far south as we were looking. But it kept popping up on our inbox and in our feeds and stuff, and eventually when we could come and view places, this was the first one we came to. And as soon as we got here, we just knew that this was the right one. There's a saying that you don't choose the chateau chooses you, and that was very much the case with this one.
Now the third question, again starring Cynthia Berry, she's been very busy, but also Melissa Halbert and John Sinclair have all asked, what was the deciding factor in you actually choosing Chateau de Bruges?
Thank you all for your question. The deciding factor really of choosing this chateau was the feeling that we had when we got here. Maybe what we were looking for on paper from a chateau. This didn't tick all the boxes, but as soon as we got here and we saw the view that you've all seen, you know, of the side of the chateau and the options that it has available to us, and just the general feeling that we had from it. And plus, it wasn't derelict; it was in a fairly okay condition that we could, you know, live here straight away. I think that was those were the deciding factors.
Question number 4. Apologies for the pronunciation. I can't even pronounce pronunciation. Question number 4. Apologies if I get the pronunciation wrong. Is from Francisco Nechochia. And he has said, "Hola chicos, is the chateau listed, or has it had any remodelation permits or restrictions to get before doing any more?"
Hola Francisco, Catel. There are no restrictions into the chateau is not listed, which is one major thing, and there are no historic monuments around the grounds or anywhere within the grounds of the chateau. So we don't have any restrictions in terms of covenants or restricted historic things that we have to bear in mind when renovated.
Yeah. Question number 5 was from Rochelle Nowick and Alison Sears, and they have said, how many acres do you have at Chateau de Bruges?
So the chateau has 2.8 hectares of land. We're currently renting out some of that land to a farmer who keeps his cattle on there, because that part of the land was of no immediate use to us, and that was an historic agreement which we need to give notice to get out of. But it works for us. We're quite happy with it. So we have 2.8 hectares of land.
Number 6, Least We Forget, has said, how long was it uninhabited before you moved in?
The chateau was actually being lived in from when we bought it. The previous owners had lived there for 20 years and they had started to do renovation. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to find out too much about the owners prior to those, and we're currently trying to look into the history of the chateau to find out more. But it was, as far as we're aware, fully habitated. habitable, or people were living here for 20 years at least before we bought it.
And question number 7 was from Cynthia Berry. Where does the road outside your grounds go?
Okay, so the road outside the grounds, there's one main road which runs through the commune, and that is the road that's outside. Probably has 20 cars a day at most going up and down. I mean, it does go to the lake, which you would have seen on the videos, so that's the majority of the traffic. But just a road which comes through the village, goes from Commentry, one commune on that side, down to, I don't know where that goes.
Yeah,
Chateaus,
yeah.
Chateaus, which is a village on the other side. So just the main through road for the commune.
So the next section that we're talking about is the location of the chateau. Now Danielle is in the seat this time, so she's going to be answering the questions. And the first question has been asked by lots of people. So that is Cynthia Berry, Debbie Ryer, Christine Cox, and Garden Fairy Godmother. And they have all asked, where exactly is the chateau located? And where is your nearest airport and the nearest train station?
Okay, thank you again everyone for your questions. The chateau is located in central France, in the department of Puy-de-Dôme, and it's in a little village called La Pérouse. La Pérouse, I should pronounce it properly. That. So nearest airport is Limoges Airport. However, the biggest, more central airport would be Lyon. And train station wise, you can get a bus and a train from Lyon Airport. However, there are a few stops in between. We have had a couple of friends come to stay who took the train into La Pérouse from where they got dropped off the airport. So there's a few places to get to the chateau via transport. Okay, so I'm now in the question sheet. I'm now in the question seat, and I'm in charge. So I'm going to be asking Jake some questions about social media. Okay, first question, Jake, from Cynthia Berry says, who decided to utilise YouTube?
So the person that really encouraged us to pick up YouTube and really run with it was a guy called Peter, who has his own YouTube channel. I've pinned that down below for you so you can take a look. But he was basically saying how big the interest is for places like this, and how well he thinks that the chateau would go down on YouTube, and here we are. It seems to be going down really well.
Second question from Jill Tagg. Are you in contact with any other chateaus for help and advice?
So a couple of chateaus and I got a couple of YouTube channels actually have already reached out to us and given us some advice in terms of what we were doing with the channel and a few things that we were doing around the chateau as well. We haven't had any contact from any major YouTube channels. I'm going to call them major ones because they've got like over 100,000 subscribers, which is just nuts. We would love to have some contact with them. We would love to maybe do some sort of link up in terms of recording something with them as well. We think that would be really beneficial for us to really get to see what they do in terms of the recording process as well. Definitely something that we'll be looking to do in the near future. And if there are any major YouTube chateau channels watching, please do reach out to us because we're always willing to take on board some of your knowledge.
The next section then is about the history of the chateau, and again I'm going to ask Jake these questions. Question 1 then is from Rosemary de Chonez. Have you met any of your neighbours or people who used to live or work there that might have stories or historical information about the chateau? Okay,
so as Graham mentioned a little earlier, we don't know too much about the history of the chateau, and the neighbours and the local people in the commune have all said similar things. They didn't know the previous owners very well, and they don't know too much about the history of the chateau either. Even La Mairie said that she has very little history to do with the chateau. So in terms of our local neighbours, we've got some friends already down in the local commune. So we've got Max and Kevin, who live down towards the bottom of the lake. And we've also got Hélène and her family who live at the opposite side of the La Pérouse village, who have been really welcoming and really patient with the communication barrier that we're having.
Question 2 from Lest We Forget. Will you be researching the previous owners from when it was built to present day? And did it come with any historic documents?
Okay, so I've touched on the history a little bit already. When Mum and Dad first picked up the keys, they were kind of shown a little bit of history in terms of the previous owners of the chateau, but some sort of French organisation means that they don't get that document until a long time in the future. So they were told that it might be a year or so before we see that sheet again. And then in terms of the local commune and who knows what about the chateau, we haven't found anyone yet that actually knows more than we do already about the chateau itself. It's definitely on our list of things to do. We want to know more, but we're just yet to find someone that can tell us more.
Question 3 from Francisco. Are there any chateau ghosts?
Any chateau ghosts? I think it helps having the dog around. He can often sit and stare into space, which he definitely didn't used to do in our house, which makes us think, oh God, is there something there? And then we've also had a couple of different cameramen at the house now recording for different shows, which you'll see later in the year, who have been alone in the chateau doing some of their panning shots. And then when we've seen them a little bit later on, they were like, oh, were you upstairs a little bit earlier? And we're like, no. And he's like, there was definitely someone upstairs. Like I could hear someone walking around. We haven't had any like major horror stories yet, have we? And I don't think any three of us have really had any anything happen that makes you think, oh my God, there's a ghost there. But in a house that is so big, with so many noises and the building creaking and shutters opening and closing, it does make you think every now and then, oh my God, what was that? But no.
Does it have a ghostly vibe?
Doesn't have a ghosty vibe, no. No ghosty vibes here. That's been, what do they say on your...
That's been debunked.
It's been debunked. Okay, so the next section is to do with the design ideas that we're having for the chateau. Now, again, this is Danielle's domain, so she's in the hot seat. Got 4 questions here for you, Danielle, but I'm going to start with one from Sandy Wallace and Lee, and they have asked, are you planning on restoring the chateau to its period or modernising it? And what kind of style are you thinking of going for in terms of the decoration?
Okay, thank you both for your questions. With regards to restoring the chateau, we want to be quite sensitive with the chateau's history, but we also want our customers and our guests to have a enjoyable and relaxing experience. So we will have some modern parts as well as the older history of the chateau.
Okay, question 2 is from Rochelle Nowick, and she has asked, what rooms are you working on first?
Thank you, Rochelle. So you might have seen from our previous videos where we named the bedrooms. So we're starting on the first floor, and we've started on bedroom 2, which is known as Revel, started on bedroom 3, which is known as Lettuce, and then we are soon to be moving on to bedroom 1, which has no name. Once those 3 rooms are completed, it allows us to shut off that corridor completely, and that will be just a guest area with no renovation in that part of the wing, if you will.
Going on from that, question 3, Laurie has asked, why does each room have a name of its own?
Okay, so each room has a name of its own, Laurie. We thought that we wanted to go down the route of every room being different and have its own personal story that we want to share with guests when they come to the chateau. The bedrooms are going to be named the way they are because we have all decided that it would be nice for each room to be named after a problem or a difficulty that we have faced while renovating that room, and it just gives us a bit of a flashback and a reflection of what we did in that room and how we got on.
And then question 4 is from Francisco Nochochia, and he has asked, do you have a colour scheme to consider at the time of painting the facades? Facades. Question 4 is from Francisco Nochochia. Question 4 is from Francisco Nochochia, and he has asked, do you have a colour scheme to consider at the time of painting the facades or the shutters?
So we haven't really discussed that as of yet, but I think in the future we're going to be looking to protect the outside of the building and give it a bit of a fresh up, but no sort of colour schemes right now.
Okay, so the next section is to do with the business plan of the chateau. Now, Graham's back in the hot seat for this section, and there are a few questions here, Graham. I'm going to start with question 1 from Lee and Jane Kearns, and they have asked, what are your plans with running the chateau?
Okay, thank you for your questions. We do have a business plan which we put together at the start of this process with the help of Rachel, who very much drives that side of the business. But the plan as an overall business is to offer the chateau as a chambre d'hôte or table d'hôte, bed and breakfast with evening meals. At a later stage, then once we go past 5 rooms, we will move to hotel status. We also want to provide art retreats and craft retreats, utilising the outbuildings and bits and pieces for that. And we also want to do weddings and events for that market as well. And on top of that, we also plan to rent the whole chateau out as a complete unit, so big groups or families can take the whole building for a period.
Okay, question 2 is from TJ Bren, Carolyn Black, and Andrew Bruce, and they have all asked, what are your timescales when you want to open as a business?
Okay, so the timescale for opening the chateau as a business currently, as per the business plan, it was by the end of this calendar year. So by December, we plan to have at least 2 rooms ready. I think we're a little bit ahead of that, and I would say, putting my head on the line, I think within the next month, we'll be in a position to at least be able to offer 1 room, if not maybe 2, on a bed and breakfast kind of one night stay to test our waters and get some feedback on what we've done so far in terms of the rooms and how they're working.
Question 3 is from Rochelle Nowick, and she has asked, how many rooms will you be renting out when the chateau is restored?
Hi Rochelle, when the chateau's completely finished, we could have up to 10 bedrooms within the chateau, and then a couple of other bedrooms within the gîtes. That's probably at least 3 to 5 years down the line before we're at that stage. But we hope to certainly start trading as a chambre d'hôte, table d'hôte within the next few months.
Question 4 is from Jill Tagg, and she's asked, will you be holding festivals or your own outdoor antique fairs and craft fairs?
Hi Jill, thank you for your question and your continued support of our channel. We certainly want to hold events at the chateau, and we have made it clear to the Mary and her team that if there's anything that they want to hold within the grounds of the chateau, that we're more than happy to do so. The longer term for the business plan would be that would start to generate some income for us. So we're more than open to getting our teeth into those, yes.
Okay, question 5 is from Andrew Bruce, and he's asked, will dogs be allowed?
Hi Andrew, thank you, good question. Yes, we will certainly have a number of rooms that will be dog friendly. We have a dog ourselves, as you've seen with Merlin, and my dog, who's currently still in the UK, Archie, will be coming out as well. So, we're dog lovers. To quote a phrase that I've seen in some pubs in the UK, dogs are welcome, children are tolerated.
And question 6 is from Debbie Ryer. Will you be using volunteers to help from around the world like other chateaus are currently doing?
Hi Debbie, good question. One we've seen a couple of times on the channel, people asking. We're certainly not against the idea of having volunteers come and stay at the chateau. Once we have some accommodation for them to stay in, we'd need to just check in terms of what that means from a legal standby, or have Rachel look into that in terms of public liability, professional liability, and where we stand on those grounds. But if someone has the skills and the willingness to come and stay with us, then I see no reason that we wouldn't put you up and take advantage of your keenness.
Okay, moving on to our last section, which is the renovation side of the chateau. And again, Graham's staying in the hot seat as he is in charge and head of renovation. Just 2 questions for you in this section, Graham. And the first one is from Margie Mistretta, and she has asked, when will the renovations inside begin?
Hi Margie, thank you for your question. The renovations inside began pretty much as soon as we had the keys. So, well, it's strictly not true, but probably pretty much as soon as Jake and Danielle got here a week after having the keys, we already earmarked our first room and started ripping things out. So we're well underway, as Daniel said earlier, to renovating 2 of our bedrooms, with a 3rd one already earmarked, which is shouldn't be a long job. So renovation started, and watch this space for some videos coming up soon of the renovation process.
And then question 2 was from Jane Kearns. Are there any outbuildings that you will be converting into gîtes?
Hi Jane. Yes, we've got 2. We're very lucky to have 2 very large outbuildings. One which is was previously used for accommodation, which can be, I was going to say, fairly easily converted into living quarters, but nothing in owning a chateau is easy. So we have a space which is earmarked for a gîte, and 2 other spaces that have the potential to be either art spaces or workshop spaces or living quarters. So not high on our priorities right at this moment, but certainly something we'll be doing in the future.
Okay, thank you once again for watching another Chateau de Bruges video. We hope you've enjoyed the Q&A video and you've found out a little bit more about us and the chateau. Don't forget to let us know what you want to see next week, whether it be some renovations or some stuff about the local commune. I know Dad really wants to get the renovation videos going. As well as that, if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and click that notification bell to be notified of our future videos. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.